Right, good evening, welcome along to the Tuesday Club. We're only approximately 11 minutes late, which of course, as we all know, is Dublin time, so we're bang on time as ever. So it is 9:45 in Dublin, for all you English viewers who are joining us after watching England play a football match against Switzerland. This is the Tuesday Club, and the Tuesday Club is, of course, brought to you in association with RedsBet. RedsBet is a betting site tailor-made for Liverpool supporters. RedsBet aims to share half of their net profit to Liverpool supporters and fan causes, so no matter what, the fans end up a winner. Check out the odds on RedsBet or download the RedsBet app. Share the glory, and remember, of course, to gamble responsibly. Right, look, it's the international break weekend, and the lads at RedsBet have given us a bet, which we'll talk about as when we get on to the Tottenham Hotspur and Liverpool preview later on in the show. We'll throw it out there. We've actually got two bets to throw just because it's special this week, just especially for you guys. But in the studio tonight, I am, of course, joined by a lot of wonderful lads. Wonderful lads, that's all I can say. Wonderful lads, and a lid, who's come all the way from South County Dublin. So I want to hand it over, of course, to my first guest, and tonight it is, of course, Shane Davern. How are you, Shane? Keep it well, it's good to see you in the studio. Yeah, I think you were
first choice.
Yeah,
first name.
Oh, it was first name on
the team sheet.
First name on the team sheet.
I'm good.
Yeah, that's you, my David Fairclough. Of course, next in line, Jamie Home. Good to have you back in.
You good?
Come on into the mics there. I hope
the bunk has changed, lads.
It has, just a bit, hasn't it?
Just a touch.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it's good, mate. It's good.
Yeah?
Very hot, very warm.
It is warm. But it's insulated for winter.
Okay.
And we are getting into winter. I was told this evening, sure, won't be long, love, until we have to put the heating on in 2 weeks' time. So that's what I was told before I left the house this evening. I said, you're mad, it's just a bit darker than normally, and it's not actually that cold.
Women are fucking mental.
Stephen Daly, I was talking to my daughter. Stephen Daly.
She's a woman too.
She's only a child. Stephen Daly.
Hi, Phil.
It's good to see you back.
Great to see you.
You've been
hello to all of our viewers.
Is that where you look?
Yeah, that's the see that camera there.
That's new to all this, lads.
That's the difference. That's professionalism right there. I know how to address the camera. You know?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, I was trying to teach the lads last week that we need to go full ESPN style and not actually look at each other.
To you.
Yeah,
so how are you? I'm great, Phil. Thanks for asking. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Of course,
lads. How long have you been waiting to use that?
Oh, 3 weeks, to be honest with you.
At least 3 weeks.
At least.
Possibly
4 months, if I'm honest.
Look, I'd love to start off and say we've got loads to talk about on the pod tonight.
But we're just going to wrap it up there. So thanks for coming.
So that's it. So thanks it, lads. That's it. Good night. God bless. But of course, it is the international break, or as I call it, IBS. It's the same as irritable bowel syndrome. When you stop drinking, look, the people can see it. It's not like you can lift out the water.
Rehydration is very important, Phil. Rehydration is key.
Well, if what's that shower of water stuff that Stephen Gerrard promos and nobody else drinks in the world?
Angel Revive.
Grand. If Angel Revive want to give us a sponsorship deal, we'll stick the Angel Revive.
No problem. Just to let anybody know, we are all about product placement. There's a lot of desk space here that's empty. A lot of products could fit in here. Give us a shout.
Right, so on tonight we're going to do something different. We've got the random topic hat, topic generator.
Yeah.
Right? We were meant to get a top hat, but even though Steve was fairly posh.
I left my top hat at home.
Fairly posh.
I was playing football before I came here today. No, I was playing football, so my tails and top hat were at home. Yeah. I didn't get a chance to stop off.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed because I got a piece of paper and cut the little topics.
No, I'll have it next week. I'll bring in the top hat next week, no problem.
Even use the pen to write it down.
I know I have two different top hats. I've got like an old Dickensian.
Why am I not surprised by this?
Yeah. And then I've got a smaller top hat.
But I don't think that's
it was a measure of your stature back in the day. So
bad
Tory, a massive one because I'm a giant Tory.
You're a bad Tory.
You was in Royal Ascot.
Yeah. I went to Royal Ascot.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
I went to the Epsom Derby as well.
He was in the Queen's carriage.
I was in the Queen's box at the.
And that's of course why we started slightly later this evening after the watershed.
Well, I'll tell you that story later.
Yeah.
Throwing our corgis.
But anyway, look, on production duties tonight, so if the sound is shit or the camera angles are all wrong, of course Gav Doyle is on it, so he's on it.
Blame Gav.
Yeah, we blame Gav, but we'll bring Gav in later. But Gav is going to throw out the topics. So the topics are numbered 1 to 10, even though there's only 8 of them. And
you don't want to know what 9 and 10 are.
And we're going to do 5. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the three of us, and you're each going to give me a number between 1 and 10.
Okay.
And then we'll get the topic off Gav in that manner. All right.
Great.
So I'm going to start with you, Jamie Home, because it is your first night in the bunker ever. Give me your number between 1 and 10.
8.
8. Gav Doyle, what is the topic on number 8?
Are you laughing at?
Worst rated LFC player.
Current or ever?
Let me explain this one. This is your worst player who was rated by everyone else for LFC. So who's
at the moment?
Anytime.
Anytime.
We'll limit it to when football was invented, the Premiership, right? So that'll make it easier.
Okay.
Can I go?
Yeah,
You can, because you shoot out.
I feel, is it only me?
No, but you go first.
No, this is how we work. We all talk.
Mamadou Sakho.
Mamadou Sakho. Go on, expand. You can't just say Mamadou Sakho and we move on.
I think the football hipsters had him painted as Maldini reincarnated, when in reality he played like Bambi on ice. He was dominant in the air occasionally, but was accident prone and a liability.
Did you discuss this with Damo?
Does Damo rate him?
Yeah, he was a centre back.
Yeah, but does he rate Sakho?
Yeah.
Oh, does he? No, I've never had that discussion with him, mate. I've had it with plenty of people on Twitter now. He's very popular on Twitter.
He is very popular, is Mamadou Sakho. But now he lives in the Crystal Palace country.
Known for his painting capabilities.
Well, it is. Do you know what? If ever there was an LFC player who we needed in this bunker when we were building it, was Mamadou Sakho to come in and lash the paint on. Poor old Steve was doing it himself.
Did a great job, though.
Did a great job. Yeah, it's beautiful. How'd you paint? That was, I tell you, that was this. I remember the size of the paintbrush he used to do.
Yeah, very small. Took me ages.
It took you ages.
Very precise.
Getting the shading and everything right. And then, of course, if in case people are watching, the golden sky we have in the corner, that was a nice little touch.
Listen, I was singing the song.
Yeah.
Walk on. Walk on. Yeah. Is it up to me now? Who I don't rate?
Yeah.
Can I just bring that one around the room though? What does everyone agree there, or do you?
I would definitely. I looked at him at times and thought, yeah, he looks really impressive and high standard, and then other times he looked just mediocre. And you're right. He had this ability to make things look more complicated than they needed to be. He I used to complain a little bit about Emre Can doing that as well, inviting pressure on himself. And I think Sakho had an element of doing that. He would maybe hold on to it, or just let the forward close him down a little bit too much before he'd move the ball. And just to me he was okay. I wouldn't pick him as top.
I don't think it's level wise. I think he's an okay centre back. It was more based on the how people rate him, where they rank him, rather than his actual ability. He's a Crystal Palace level centre back, I would say, at this moment in time.
I think at the time though, what I liked about Manny, I liked him. But I agree that there was times and games you look at him and like, what are you doing there? But I did think at that time when he was in the team under Rodgers,
when he was on the gear,
under Rodgers, and it was kind of after, in between, kind of Suarez had left and we were struggling a bit. I did find him very important that he was kind of the only one who was able to get on a ball and thread a ball through to Coutinho kind of on the half turn. The other side of it, skirting and that weren't able to do it. So I thought he was good at that.
I think the one thing I'd say about him is he hasn't looked a player that shouldn't be at Crystal Palace. So you think back to even the likes of Gary Cahill, who got his move from Bolton to Chelsea, and he stepped up a level, and other players like that who've come from a lower league team. Rio Ferdinand going up, that's a little bit different. He broke a world record for his move, but he went from West Ham to Leeds to United. You know what I mean? He was taking a step up and always looked above the level he was playing at. Sakho was dropped down to Palace, and you'd be looking at him like Cabaye went to Palace, and you were saying he was a class act for 6 or 12 months in the middle of the park. Not with Sakho. He looks like he fits in there. Sorry, Phil.
It was your choice.
Martin Skirtle.
I'm bored of talking about Sakho.
Martin Skirtle.
Who rated Skirtle?
Loads of people.
What?
Loads of people.
Did he get Player of the Year one year?
He's a warrior. He's fucking. He's last ditch tackles. He's this. He's that. Puts his head where people won't put their feet. That sort of shite that you heard. To me, he was just constantly kept our defence 10 yards further back than it should have been, and was actually a windbag. The amount of fucking lads that bashed him, big strong centre forwards that bashed him in the Premiership was outrageous. And just for me, Martin Skirtle.
I didn't know anyone rated him. I wouldn't have him down as a rated him. He was absolutely horse manure. Shane.
Oh Jesus, terrible memory.
Just pick anyone.
I'll be controversial.
Yeah.
Right, but I'll temper it by
He's going to blow up, folks.
He's already doubting himself now. Look at this.
This better be good.
Steven Gerrard.
No. I will temper it by saying when this person played in the front three, he was absolutely deplorable, and that was Lallana.
I'll agree with you 100%
when he played in the front three,
100%.
not when he, and that was seen to be kind of the position that he played when he first came in.
Yeah, and I'm with you on this, and I've said it a million times.
I think he went something like he won goal and
Champions League
games or something
Champions
like
League
that.
finals a prime example again. I know he'd been
front
injured.
three, but look, when he did drop back and he was kind of the leader of the press, as our Twitter fans maybe coined
the
them
leader
of the press.
Are you going to
song,
knock
isn't
it?
it?
Like, are you
No,
going
that's
to
not a
do like the
euphemism.
Grease song and just change the fucking?
He's the
leader
leader
of
of the press.
And all the lads just running around.
No, when he was going to that, I thought he improved.
No, he was
greatly,
excellent
but
in
he
that-
was
in
really,
that
really good.
position.
But in the front three, I thought
He looked
really
a little
good.
lost. I think he looked a little lost, and he always looked to cut back. And I think it was more adapting to the way that we were playing. I just don't think he fits that position. He likes to keep the ball, and it was slowing everything down. We were talking before the show. He suits midfield much more because he's got the ability. Yeah, exactly.
You know, when he's in that front three, he has to beat a man and go on and get a shot away or play the final pass. When he's in that midfield three as the most advanced of the three, then he actually has options in front of him, and he can actually dictate. He's a great man to be in a tight space and work his way out of it, or play a ball out and take 2 or 3 players out of play with a threaded ball. But in that top three, he was
in the front three, he
shit.
was really
Square
really
pegs,
good.
round holes.
Struggled badly.
Yeah.
Struggled
And you
badly.
saw it again in the Champions League final. He came on and we had 10 men for most of that game.
That's a tough ask, though.
I know it was, and he was only coming back, and I understand that, but it wouldn't have mattered if he was fully fit and you'd put him in that position. He'd have had 0 impact.
Look at me dying to defend him.
I know,
Just any chance I get.
No, and I'm not knocking him because I really like him. And I said last season that I didn't think he'd be sold in the summer because I thought Klopp had taken responsibility for the injury, for rushing him back, and I think he still gets another chance this season, even though he's just had another setback. But yeah,
Phil, what about you?
I have a list.
no doubt.
Why doesn't that surprise you?
All goalkeepers.
Well, because where do we start? No, like literally, you could just take the naughties and you could have a whole fucking squads of players that were rated that are utter shite. Like, do you know what I mean? I personally, I never rated Michael Owen, and I've said this. I know a lot of people
you're
put
bananas.
that. But this is my point. I've never rated Michael Owen.
He won fucking World Player of the Year at the club. Literally the Ballon d'Or.
Hang on a second. The question was, who was the player that you don't rate that you think was
No,
terrible?
go on. Put your case forward then.
I didn't like Michael Owen as a player. I thought he fitted a very agricultural style of football, which is what Gerard Houllier played. And he had disgusting football and ideals and beliefs. Right?
That's because you hate Houllier.
I don't care, but the whole thing is a long ball merchant, and it was pure pace. Once he lost his pace, his game disappeared. He was nowhere near top level centre forward, right? So for me, it was all about pace. He spent loads of times injured.
You still got to finish the ball though, Phil.
Hang on, I didn't interrupt when you were waxing on about Sacco, right?
Fair play.
But Michael Owen, for me, anyway, is the worst player who was rated. And we were talking about rated by other fans. I'm giving my point of view. I don't think he was as good as people make out. And when I look back at him now, there's nothing that I see and go, wow, he was amazing. Whereas I can look back at Robbie Fowler and look at the things that Fowler did, which was truly amazing. When you look back at the old pictures of Steve McManaman and see what he did on a football pitch, again, truly amazing. What Michael Owen did when he broke onto the scene was an explosive kid who scored a lot of goals in flashes. But he never fully utilised his talent and never fully realised it because he was highly reliant on pace from the off.
And the club didn't look after him with the injuries he had.
That's neither here nor there. You just asked me.
But to say that he was purely a pace merchant, if he's through on goal, he's still got to finish, and he was an absolutely top-notch finisher.
Gabby Agbonlahor was a pace merchant.
Yeah, but I remember loads of misses.
You don't get moves to Real Madrid if you're not a half-decent footballer.
He went and sat on the bench at Real Madrid for the best part of 2 years.
We scored goals though, and he saw game time, and that look at the team he was in. That was
very little game time.
That was the height of the Galacticos.
They brought him to put him on the bench as a backup to somebody else. They didn't bring him to be a first team player.
I think it's fair to say when he left Liverpool, that was really kind of not the end of his career. But
hang on a second. We got Antonio Nunes as part of that deal. Whoa. Don't you forget it. Okay, next.
Moving on.
On that bombshell.
Yeah.
Stephen Daly.
Mic drop.
Stephen Daly. Give me a number.
Number 5.
Number 5.
Gavin, number 5.
Manager's ego versus arrogance versus belief.
Okay.
Ooh.
Let me explain this one, right?
Please, if you would.
I can't remember right now because I came up with it earlier on.
Please give me a moment while I try to remember what I meant by that. As I said to you earlier, if you just use your words when writing these things.
I used the words, but I used them out of my mind and I gone now. Essentially, right, the great managers, the best managers, have a level of arrogance and confidence about them, right? And belief. But that's fed by an ego, right? So what do you look at it? People talk about Mourinho's arrogance and his ego now is greater than his ability, right? We look at Klopp. Klopp is a manager in the prime of his managerial career. Nobody talks about him being arrogant. It's all about belief and we don't talk about ego, we talk about personality, right? That will very quickly turn once results don't go on his way and there's pressure comes on him. So for you, what is the best blend of the managerial psyche that you want to see in a top level manager?
Ooh, okay, so I think every top manager has to have an ego. Simply, they have to believe that they are the alpha in the room. Otherwise, I don't think you get to the level. You look at, there's no way Alex Ferguson ever felt that he wasn't the alpha there. When he felt that he was being challenged, he moved those players on. Same with Jose Mourinho. You look at him. Jurgen Klopp, I don't know, because I haven't seen him win enough. He won a couple of titles with Dortmund, but he hasn't been a serial winner in the same way. But you look at managers like Carlo Ancelotti, yet again, a manager, when you look back and when people talk about him, he was the pinnacle of a dressing room. So there has to be an element of ego. Of course, there has to be confidence, because similar to any player, if a manager doesn't believe in his own systems and his own approach, in what he wants the team to do, that being the correct way to do it, then he's never going to be able to succeed. And you said confidence. Sorry, and it's confidence, ego, and what was the other one?
Belief.
They're kind of similar. Confidence and belief are very similar. Like I think there has to be an element of a manager looking at a long-term philosophy and saying, this is how I'm going to... If you yet again, let's go back to Mourinho. He had a way of playing, and every club he's gone to, he's looked to implement that. It hasn't worked at United. It worked everywhere else he went. He went in, set up a very resolute defence, built on that, won a league, went fucking mental, pissed off. That's literally what his MO was.
You've worked with a lot of people in the game as well. What is it for you?
I think it's how you had, like, when people say ego, particularly in the professional game, it's really what they're talking about is dealing with kind of the press. That's when they're out in front and centre, they're in press conferences, that type of thing, interviews after games. They like the top managers have it in different ways in relation to that. You look at Pep would be very kind of standoffish to the media, very soft spoken. He just wants to get out. You can see he just wants to get out of there. Klopp is obviously very exuberant. He gets people laughing, etc., etc. And then Mourinho was always playing a game. It's always a game with him. I think when you're talking about that, it can be very different. But in relation to in the dressing room, like what you said, you have to be the alpha. And dressing rooms, no matter what level you play at, if you're a spoofer, you'll be found out very, very, very quick. So you have to be the alpha, and you basically have to have belief in what you're doing, because if you don't, you're gone.
Jamie, you talked some about the poo and the tactics board before. So what's
that might be the nicest thing you've ever said to me, mate.
What would your blend be for?
Personally speaking, I always prefer a manager that puts an arm around you. And I think that's one of the key traits. And I think the game's changed a little bit now. I don't think you'll get the likes of a Fergie. Yeah. And I think you'll see now, you're seeing it with Mourinho, he's trying to dominate players. And I just think dressing rooms and football has changed now. There's too many egos in the dressing room. There's too many different types of characters. As a manager, to be successful, you've nearly got to be able to adapt to the different personalities in the room. And I think that's what Klopp does fantastically well. It's like kind of this siege mentality, one club kind of routine, not sort of self-centered like Mourinho. It's very much the Mourinho show. It's not about the players, it's about him. I think that's dead in the water now. I think the game's evolved. And as Shane said, I think in a football dressing room, there's no hiding place. If you don't believe in yourself, the players will start to talk. You'll get little clicks in the dressing room. They'll start sort of feeding off what you're saying. So, and you've seen, I think, I watched the City documentary. Guardiola made a comment. He turned around and he said, even if I don't know the answer to something, I'll pretend in front of the lads that I do know the answer, so they have confidence in me and my philosophy. And that's the thing, no matter what happens on the football pitch, you've got to keep true to whatever your philosophy is, I think.
Regular viewer Kev O'Sullivan says, not feckin' Roy Keane. That's for one.
Yeah, but that's a prime example of somebody who has stayed true to his way. He has a way as a player. And he has, and somebody brought up the Van Nistelrooy quote in his book there today. I saw where he's talking about, how he was asking Ruud ahead of a semi-final, why are you not playing? And Van Nistelrooy says, I felt my knee last night. And he's saying, I'm there, my fucking hamstring's hanging off me, and of course I'm going to play. And he said when he thought back on it, he thought that's how Van Nistelrooy went on to play till he was 39 or whatever. The European players looked after their bodies, but he doesn't change his mindset when he becomes a manager, because he doesn't care about. It's not his body. He wants others to sacrifice their body for the good of the cause. He's about the cause, and it's probably delivered incorrectly at times. But I think the mentality and the psyche behind it is correct. That's
Okay, let's move on to Shane's shout. Shane, give us a number between 1 and 10.
1.
1.
Ooh.
Gav Doyle.
Half full or half empty?
Now, half full or half empty, right?
In relation to what? Liverpool. Jamie knows the answer with me anyway. I'm always half empty.
I didn't want to say anything, mate.
I'm always half empty.
Shane was full, left half empty. Right. Your normal approach to things, are you a half full type person or a half empty type person?
Depends on the situation. Bit of both, but when it's coming to Liverpool, it's definitely half empty.
Half empty?
Yeah, because I've been hurt so many times.
You started off
the cuts
full
run deep.
Started off
and just worn down to half empty.
That's why I'm not
half empty is quite.
4 wins and the bounce.
Being half empty at this stage is actually quite positive.
Yeah,
because you've got half.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
still half there.
Still left with half.
Because we've been running on tenths for a long time at this stage, and not Henry the Tenths, patron saint of camping. Jamie, if you say half empty, I'm going to throw a carpet at your head.
The most positive.
Yeah.
The question to you should be 1.5 full or full. It's not.
I just think football is about it's there to enjoy. Like I love Liverpool Football Club, and I'll always believe that they're going to win the football match. And it doesn't matter if they play shite. I'll say they play shite, but I'll always look for the positive. Because otherwise, what's the fucking point? That's why I've been involved in football since I was 7 years old. Because I fucking love it. Particularly Liverpool Football Club. They could do no wrong in my eyes.
35 years involved in football.
35 years. I know the kids have aged with me, but Jesus.
Steve-o.
I'm a half full man. Sometimes if I'm pissed off after a game or whatever else, I might have a little pop about something, or if we're watching a match I might have a pop, but I am
you're very reasoned, I would say. Like you're reasonable with your outbursts.
Yeah, like I might give out about something, but generally I'm positive about football, but I'm positive about most things in life. You know what I mean? I don't see the point in being a pessimist. And you know, most of us are naturally built a certain way. We're naturally built to be pessimistic or optimistic or centre, and I'm probably on the optimistic side. Just I don't see the point in I believe in dealing with a problem when you come across one rather than waiting for a problem to happen. So
why worry about something that hasn't happened?
Exactly.
Just fucking enjoy yourself.
But yet again, I'll still have a fucking meltdown sometimes when stuff happens with football. But in general, I don't tend to get stressed in terms of.
Phil's just waiting.
What about you, Phil?
Look at the smirk on his face.
Yourself, how would you say you represent the half?
Just
full
like
or
me,
half
then,
empty
Phil.
can?
Yeah.
I like, for me, I'm neither
Don't.
half empty nor
Don't.
half full.
Don't.
I literally I wallow in people's misery. So like when things are really shit, I like winding people like you, Jamie, up who are positive more than anything.
It never works.
To be honest with you, right? you can't wind up a naturally negative person, right? Because they can always find negative in everything, right? But a naturally positive person, you can turn that dial from 10 degrees to 5,000 degrees in no space of time, because I can sense, right, when you're pissed off, right? And all I have to do is go poke.
It's because
There's no point in you going at someone negative and just go, yeah, Phil, you're right, it's a
the
lot of shit.
The problem with Jamie is that he finds the most ridiculous things to be positive about when it's been like, we've been beaten fucking 5-0 by Spurs, and he goes, yeah, but to be fair, Firmino's new hair was nice, wasn't it? And you're just going, really? Firmino's hair.
Do you know the moments where I realised I'm a tit, right? Is Phil turned round, this was after probably 3 years of him winding me up and making it his sole goal to make me leave the WhatsApp group time and time again.
And then be re-added.
He turned round to me, he turned round once and he goes, do you know sometimes I'm actually not even watching the match and I just send the message into the group, and I know he's doing it but it still pisses me off.
I have text Jamie.
Hendo's being fucking shit, Phil, not even watching the match.
I've been in WhatsApp groups, right? And I'd be in the group and I'd throw a bit of stick at Jamie and then would send him a message separately going, don't bite. And then he would read my message and then go into the group and go fucking rasher. Like, I literally just told you I was winding you up. I gave you all the tools to not leave the group.
I have to let you in a secret. Half the time when I don't watch the match, I just see what the previous comments have been and I go,
follow them.
Somebody's bound to be fucking active. I'll just pick the normal.
Go the opposite
and,
way.
and genuine, normally like the reliables. Normally,
When Alden was nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Classic Phil show. Yeah, Phil, he wasn't in the 18 today, to be honest with you.
But yeah, so I think what people need to learn is that you can have more fun with the half full type of people, and you have the half empty.
Definitely.
Right.
Phil, what's your number?
I'm going to go with number 6, Gav.
The most overrated European league.
Yeah, this is a good one. Like most people would say it's England. If you're a football hipster, right? Now, and I'm a huge fan of the German league, but the way I'm at the stage now where I think most European leagues are completely overrated. Outside are the top 5 teams in each league.
Yeah, well, that's how do you look at it? Like, I think you need to go down probably to Europa League level and have a look.
Yeah, and look at what's from say 6th to 11th to really compare the standards of leagues. And on that basis, I would potentially say, and I am a huge fan of it, the Bundesliga is probably the most overrated in that instance, because the drop off. No, the drop off from say the top 3 teams to the ones below it is huge. Yeah. And it's a much bigger gap than say the other teams. But like Kev is saying here, Spain. But you look at Spain, there's always nearly 3 or 4 teams that are challenging for the Champions League positions that tend to do well in the group stages in the Champions League in the following year, which would indicate that there's if you take away the top 2 super teams in Spain who have all the money in the world to spend, that there is the level to go below that as well. So but they you were using the Europa League as a barometer as well there. They've regularly
Spain, over the last while, Atletico Madrid, Sevilla have been dominant in the Europa League, as have the English teams in the last while. They've been in finals and been strong. Like you look at Fulham, you look at Liverpool, you look at Man United in the last 10 years. That's 3. There's probably another one that Arsenal didn't get to but that's 3 that have been in the final over the last 8
you only have to look at, for me anyway, talking about Germany, what we did to Hoffenheim last year really was annihilated.
The problem with people might pick out France.
Team in Germany.
People might pick out France, but so many people say the French league is a joke of a league and PSG should piss all over it every season. So is it as highly rated as? Yeah, it's not in the same. It's always seen as a low. You go England, Spain, Italy, Germany, and then you go France are.
And Monaco have been to a Champions League final and semi-final in probably the last 10 years, 12 years.
For the French league, then is it actually slightly underrated? Because their teams tend to make the quarterfinals of the Europa League on a regular basis. Yet it's never ranked as, say, one of the top 3 leagues. If you look at the UEFA sort of league standards in terms of where the leagues come for.
What's the coefficients like? Are they getting 4 teams or 3 teams in?
3. So you've got, I think, you've got Germany and Italy who are quite close. You've got Spain, England and Spain. I think will have to all finish outside of all the European places for the next 20 years to lose one of their spots. But it's the Germany that have 4 spots, and then I think Italy lost a spot. They've only 3.
They've only got 3 now.
Yeah, because Germany got them. So it's them 2 who are sort of vying for the
it's
4
Spain
spots.
Spain and England are very safe.
Yeah,
there was a few years ago there where England were
starting to move. Risk. Yeah, but again, at the time, because they've been so dominant, the English teams have been so dominant, and in say Europa League finals, Champions League finals, semi-finals, that they always maintain. So once you've got one strong English team, it almost nearly retains the coefficient.
Such a poor competition though. The Europa League, like the standard is so bad. It's literally a knockabout until you get to quarters, semis.
Quarterfinals.
It's a free run. Like
the knockout stages are where it even gets halfway.
But that's because UEFA did a silly thing, right? They could have ended all domestic cup competitions essentially by retaining the Cup Winners' Cup. I think an awful lot.
Are they not bringing that back though, Phil? Did I see something like that today?
Talk of another one today.
Because of this, right? That there is this demand, and this is where I sort of really want to use this as a leading question, right? Essentially, we can't be more than 20 years away from just a European Super League.
Yeah.
Well, sure, wasn't the top 4? We had to obviously qualify against Hoffenheim the last time out. We didn't this time because essentially they want the big teams in the group stage. Straight in, teams that command the most money, most TV money, and that's what they want.
Like there's more. There is definitely more of a pull at the idea, like this idea of the International Champions Cup and the friendlies, where you're getting all the big teams now playing all around the world in different venues, and them just putting a cup competition around it. We're definitely moving to the stage where the teams want more money and they want to play the big matches because they want to get the crowds in the stadium.
I think the domestic leagues are becoming. You can nearly script who's going to come where, and I think that will soon become boring in itself. And I think as fans are getting priced out of the game, why would you as a West Brom fan keep paying, you know, or one of the teams, West Brom went down, but any of the teams near the bottom, why would you repeatedly pay extortionate prices to watch your team get hockeyed and never have a chance of winning anything? That gap is going to get wider and wider and wider, and eventually there would probably be some pull for the lower lads to have a chance of winning a domestic league with the big boys out of it. They go and compete amongst the elites, you know, have their own competition, and let us have a go at trying to win something.
Yeah, you could have it whereby you have two divisions. You know, you've got the top 5 from the 4 big leagues, or top 4 from the 4 big leagues, and then you've got a division below that. And what happens is the winners of each home league actually goes into Division 2 of the European Super League and gets a chance to try and stay in there. I think one of the big problems is going to be for fans, because it's already very costly for fans to go up and down the country and go, or you know, people like ourselves or Norwegians or whoever else that come over, you know, regularly enough during a season. You start asking them to go to Germany 1 week, France the next, you know, in 2 weeks' time, Italy in 2 weeks' time, then back to Germany. You know, it's a lot of travel, it's a lot of expense, it's a lot of hassle. You know, they will now start, you know, no disrespect, they'll start now understanding. Is that
much of a difference, though? Would that be?
Right. Shane, you realise, right, we want to go to a Liverpool game. We went over to the West Ham match. We were up at 4 o'clock in the morning. We were on that flight at 6:10.
That's just because you wanted to go on the ale, though.
Yeah, but no, it's because you're limited by flight times and stuff like that as well. So, you know, and cost as well. The benefit they might have is the likes of the European rail network, where they can actually get out of England and into mainland Europe on the rail system easy enough. The likes of Italy, France, Spain can all travel to each other fairly easy on the rail network, so that might benefit it. But it's a lot of travel. Every fan will become a day tripper ultimately in their experience of going to games. It will be flights, it will be long travel, it will be lots of expense. I think that will be a driver on it.
I think one of the other big things as well, I think this is more prevalent in Spain anyways, that Barcelona and Real Madrid, they're trying to, they don't want to give the other teams the TV money, because they're saying, look, we bring the biggest piece of the pie. Why are we financing you as when we're bringing basically the biggest piece of the pie? And if you were X amount of, I'll say the top 4 in England, them 2 in Spain, a couple in Germany, and they all just want the most TV money. That's basically it, and they don't want to share it with the lesser clubs. So if there is a breakaway where they all come up with something where they're all making an absolute fucking fortune, well then.
The one thing I'll say, and you have to give credit to the Premier League, is they've had an approach that without the smaller teams, there is no league. So there is a revenue share. They haven't done that in Spain, and I don't think it's actually benefited them. If you look at it, you know what I mean. It's the top 2 teams are the richest teams, but as a league, I don't think it's benefited. No, and that's what the Premier League have always tried to do.
You see regularly lower Premier League teams will be in the top 10 spending in Europe because of the money, because the finance are there. Yeah.
Right, last one, because that's for
Gavin,
give us a number.
I know the numbers.
Oh yeah, you do. So we'll do a random number. What numbers have we done? 6, 1.
You have 3, 9, 2, 7, 4, or 5 left.
Okay, we'll do. Do you know what we'll do?
How have we 9? There was only 8 questions.
There was 10. There was 5 times.
I already picked 5.
Oh, okay.
He said he had 5 left.
Well, that's because he's wrong. Because I did this.
He's literally the worst producer ever.
I don't know.
Okay.
You want this one, yeah?
So we go with 3.
Number 5.
Yeah.
Okay. This one's about gay players in football.
Okay.
Jesus. Yeah.
Right.
No,
I think it's a good question. Just what's your feelings on it? Do you think is there gay players out there? And, I suppose.
I know what the question is.
What's stopping them coming out? I suppose.
This is a valid question, right? I was just thinking about it today, right? Like, look at the age we're in.
Yep.
Look at everything that's going on around the world. Mad stuff all over the shop, right? But in terms of equality, we've never tried to be a more equal and open society globally, right? Despite the lunatics like Trump and all that are knocking about, right? And all the lads in England and stuff like that, right? Yeah. But honestly, right?
All the lads in England. You're all mad.
Just the English.
You're just the English. You're all mad.
Well, yeah, in fairness, think of Brexit. When you stand back from Brexit for a second and think about it, like,
there's a lot of people aren't agreeing to Brexit, but yeah, go on.
But right, how at this stage have we not had more gay icons, and I don't mean just in terms of style and what they look like, that genuine footballers to come out and say that I'm a gay footballer. I know I can think of the most recent one was a guy in America that there was a big thing done on, I think, NBC Sports or something in terms of him coming out.
It's only him and Hitzelsberger, I think, are the two openly gay players.
That have been openly gay in terms of top end professional football.
Hitzelsberger only came out after he stopped playing, didn't he?
Yeah.
And even at that, I'm amazed there isn't more
do you know what I
come
think
out
it is?
after they've stopped playing.
Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, do you know what I think it is? And I mean, the fans of football in general, in stadiums, are a bit of, like, they're a gang of pricks.
Yeah, they're dickheads.
They're dickheads.
It's gang mentality.
Yeah.
So you get people shouting, you faggot, you this, you whatever else at players, regardless of their actual sexual orientation. There's also an element whereby the ratios aren't the same in football. So you say, right, okay, let's take it 1 in 10 people are homosexual. That's not going to be the case in football or rugby or whatever else, because there is a gravitation for sexual orientation away from certain things. So that's not to say there's no gay footballers, but it is to say that you're probably less likely to get that same ratio in a sport than you will in. So you look at it and you say, why are there so many gay people that become hairdressers? Gay men become hairdressers, or gay men go towards theatre, because they either naturally have a more
they feel more comfortable in that environment,
or they feel more comfortable in that environment. It's an accepted environment to be themselves. And I'm sure there's still an element whereby players still do not feel. They feel that will they get the same opportunities? If a fella comes out at 17 or 18 when he's trying to get a contract off a club, it'll go one of two ways. It'll go viral, and the talk will all be about him being gay rather than his actual abilities. Or he may be, because you don't know the feelings of that manager or people involved in the club. There are still a lot of homophobes out there, and you don't know whether that person's going to maybe be overlooked for a contract over somebody else, even though he's a better player, because of his sexual orientation.
I think you're saying about Virgil and what Jamie said there, that like fans basically a bunch of pricks in the ground. Like, man, the way social media is now, even if he wasn't on Twitter or wasn't on Instagram or anything like that, the names that he'd be called and his name would be put out.
But
you're singling yourself out, so you get.
I don't think it's even the names, right? I think it will be the subvertive stuff. So if he pulls out of a tackle, it's the type of stuff that we've written about.
It's the narrative. It's the narrative that they can
Well, we
create.
can't expect him to be a hard player, given everything. That type of an old school journalism that still is there.
The undercurrent kind of thing.
Exactly.
You only have to look at certain anchors on football shows outside of the UK to realise that sort of element is still in football.
Anchors with a W.
Yes.
I've had gay teammates, and everybody knew in the dressing room.
Were they openly gay?
Just I would say to 70% of the people in the room, they would.
I can't even joke about this.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not joking, and I make a laugh out of everything. But I won't joke about this because there's still tons of fellas out there that think every gay man thinks they fancy them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So you're gay, so you must fancy me.
Well, no, they probably did fancy you.
That's understandable. That's understandable. But like you normal lads, you know what I mean.
I don't know what to talk about.
No, but in all seriousness, lads, there's still a huge amount of that. So we're talking about getting in the showers. Not fucking getting in the shower. There's still elements of that there in football, and we're talking about lads in their 20s. We're not talking about lads in their 40s or their 50s. There's still undercurrents of that, and it's still it has to be a difficult time for people to do it, or they would do it by now. I think if you get 3 or 4 people to do it in the same way, it was very tough for players to come out and talk about their gambling addictions, to come out and talk about mental health. I think it takes a standpoint from 3 or 4. It'll take a high-profile player to come out and say it. Somebody who has a huge standing amongst fans, who can stand up to it.
I think a key point as well is what Shane said before, and I kind of said about dressing rooms. They can be tough places at times, and so if you're a young player coming through, at any stage of your career, actually, you don't sometimes want to single yourself out within a dressing room.
Yeah. You want to blend in.
Yeah, you would have to feel so secure amongst your teammates as friends and teammates and colleagues or whatever to be able to be completely open. I mean, you look at the Gareth Thomas story in rugby, unbelievable strength of character to be able to do that and kind of break the mould in a way. Yeah. But
how many have come out since?
It's actually not been that many.
Like the manager knowing that, like you played with gay, and the managers would have known that as well. And just what Steve was said, you just don't. you just don't know the way some managers would react.
No,
you really don't.
Old school, as we said. Sorry, Phil. The old school mentality, and I think it dependent on the manager. Everybody thinks that they would be welcoming, but if they've not been exposed to it before, they don't know how they react. So it's probably just. Whether it's an experience thing or they're just not used to the challenges that
they've
brings.
never had to deal with it before, so it's something brand
new. The question is though, right? We talk about group mentality. The fact is, and the sad fact is, would the vocal minority in a crowd be shouted down if the abuse started being levelled at an openly gay player?
Yes,
you'd like to think so.
I
don't believe it would be.
I think,
and the reason why I don't is all you have to do is look at and Kev brought up, and it was something that was in the back of my mind. I was thinking, think about Nigel Owens.
You don't think it will be?
No, think about Nigel Owens, who is the referee, the rugby referee, who's openly gay, right? Yeah. And they've had Gareth Thomas and they've had Nigel Owens come out, right? He puts any posts up, and you look at the comments that are below that, right?
But that's keyboard warriors.
But I'm still saying you put that mentality still strongly exists inside football stadiums, and unfortunately, you think of the abuse, etc., that have gone on the players on the pitch, and I'm talking about race now. I'm not even talking about homosexuality or anything else, right? And it's not shouted down by the crowd. There's nobody pulling people aside for making gestures or anything like that at anyone, and it's still going on, and it's still.
I don't know. Like I've never been in football grounds for 20 odd years, and I have never heard one single racist comment. I've never heard a racist comment. I've heard derogatory comments about homosexuality, but that's more so saying,
I've heard racist comments in the grounds.
Yeah, and did you call someone out on it?
What?
You heard what I said.
Did I call somebody out on it?
Yeah.
No.
Shitbag.
Because I didn't know who said it.
Why didn't you just stand up and say who said that?
See, you fucking thousand cunts. You're all getting it.
But no, seriously, if I heard somebody in the crowd and I saw them openly being racist or homophobic, I would absolutely call them out, and I wouldn't give a fuck what was said. I wouldn't care, because it has no place.
Do you think that there's an element in football? I think you kind of alluded to it before. It's football fans in moments of anger or frustration at the way that the teams will look for something to hang on to. So it could be that you've got green hair, it could be that you've got a big nose, it could be that you've got, and that's just another thing that they can use to insult or try and get in your head or in a moment of anger.
Absolutely, and I've been accused of this on Twitter, saying something to somebody. You know what I mean? Making a derogatory comment to somebody. That's not me implying that they are homosexual. You know what I mean? It was just said it shouldn't have been said, but it was said in a way that wasn't actually referring to their. And it does happen in football grounds as well. Absolutely, people say things, that they don't mean, but it still does not excuse it. It doesn't make it right, and it should be called out. Absolutely,
it happens on the pitch, as you see. Look, obviously, the Suarez situation was a big one. John Terry and Anton Ferdinand was another big one. Just frustration, probably.
I've said some horrific things and had people say horrific things to me, and as somebody on the pitch, we've all gone through it. I never think 1 second about what's said to me on a football pitch.
I once had a fella tell me my hair was shit.
Jesus,
I was taken off.
Yeah. Had to fix it. Right, good chat. People aren't used to that type of challenge.
Like you said before,
not doing
Jay,
that.
like dressing rooms are a tough place to go at the best times. We've all walked into dressing rooms, I'm sure, and you're getting out of the car and you're just kind of going.
You're going to a club where you don't know a lot of people.
You don't know a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And look at that, like them things would only be magnified for.
To be fair,
I
would have loved them to be gay just to do that. Walk in dressed as Elton John and everything, right? Like they have the hat on and the glasses.
Steve-O does that now with his pink shirts.
This is how we don't give a shit.
My friends, this is how we walk into the bunker before the cameras go on, and we get on macho again. I can't wait to get off screen. I can't. I want to go home and watch Made in Chelsea.
Right, come on.
Right,
let's move on.
Right, moving on. Right, we'll move away from the random topic generator. I was actually enjoying it a bit more than talking.
Oh, do you want to go for another one?
Go on, do one more.
Okay, we'll do one more. What numbers have we got left, Gavin Doyle? Right, number 4.
Yeah, this is mad. Children's TV shows to top 6 teams
compared to top 2.
Right, so because there was confusion. I have to use words to explain this one again. Right, so using the words. What children's TV show would you say represents a top 6 side? So pick a TV show, and then give me the reason for why
Kids
it would be.
TV show.
Yeah.
Phil, this is a fucking awful question.
It's a fucking grenade.
It's so
Steve-O have known for
random.
kids.
No, he means 80s. anyone.
Anything. All right. Okay,
give us an example, as it was your question. Give us the bar. Have you got one, Gav?
There's a better one here.
Okay, go on.
I'll give as the last one. I'll give it to you, right? Houllier or Rafa? That's a great question.
That's a great.
His eyes, the fire in his eyes.
It's a great show.
It's a simple question.
Somebody explain.
Philip believes there's a simple answer to this.
Who changed the club more? The spoofer that was Houllier or Rafa Benitez?
Oh, that's not a leading question at all. Both managers have their pros and their negatives.
Shut up, politician head. Right?
No, they do. I would. If you ask me, who would you have take over at Liverpool tomorrow if Klopp had to go and you had to pick one of those two? Benitez all day long, because I think Benitez, with this, although his style of football frustrated me, Houlier's style of football literally had me barred from the Submarine pub. So no, that's not even a joke.
That's not a bad thing, though.
The sub was nice at that point. They'd put a lot of money in.
That's when they had the stage.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I would take Benitez, because I think with the backing of FSG, he could be a very effective manager even in this league at the moment. I don't think Houllier would. Jamie?
We're probably going to have different views here. I think we've clashed on this one before. Not like us to clash, but I think you've got to look at where the club was at when they inherited the club. And I think that Houllier inherited arguably the back end of the Spice Boys, if my maths is right.
He
bit of a drinking culture. Probably players not look, he's chomping at the bit. Look at him, sand stapping and everything. He inherited a club that was not being ran in the right way. We had a mentality problem within the playing staff. Probably not applying themselves or looking after themselves the way that professional footballers should. And I think he shifted the culture of the club towards a more professional way. Players started to look after themselves. He was a lot stricter. Sent us on a path towards winning trophies. And won trophies. More importantly, won trophies. Not in a style that I personally like to watch. I have to point that out. But to put Liverpool back on the map in terms of winning big silverware and bringing a level of professionalism that probably didn't exist for some time, I would say Houllier personally.
Shane?
Both lads make compelling cases, really. I think Jamie is spot on to go from, what did we do, the FA Cup in 92, 95 was the League Cup, and then nothing until Houllier came in, and we were really miles off. We never really looked like winning it, and then he obviously...
You get 8, come on now, you'll get yours in a minute.
Right, so for that, to go that long, to go 6 years and then to come back with such a bang, winning the treble of 2001, he obviously wins the European Super Cup as well. I think 03 then was the League Cup against United, was it?
That's
well, he got to a League Cup final against Birmingham.
Yep.
That was 2001. 03 was when Gerrard scored. We beat United. So 2-1. 2-1. So 2003. So it's quite a good haul in that time. But I think he brought us as far as he could. He really did. He brought the professionalism back in, brought us as far as he could. But really, to take that next step, we needed to move him on. And when I love Benitez. When he went, I just remember telling people, and there was a lot of Liverpool fans that did want him to go. I don't know what the reason was. Maybe it was style of play wasn't always fantastic, but there was. I just remember saying, "Look, be careful what you wish for, because this fella is really top 3 or 4 managers in the world." So if I had to go into my head, I'd have to go Rafa. Yeah.
Hold on, was the question who you'd want us to manage us now, or who made the biggest impact?
Who had the biggest impact on the club?
Okay, I'll stick with my answer.
No, I'm with Steve on this. Rafa Benitez, his legacy far outweighs anything that Houllier did at the club. There's a myth that's perpetuated that Houllier took the club into the modern day. But to be fair, any manager that would have come into the club at that time from the continent would have changed the way things were going on, the way the club was being managed, how it was being handled. He didn't, though, generate anything within the club. Outside of the first 11, he didn't develop an academy. He didn't develop the club as a club is. You look at the club today and the structures that Rafa put in as the manager, in terms of what they did with the the academy, the structures that they put in place in the academy.
Not necessarily on the academy.
Well, it started with Rafa, because you think he brings in Burrell, he brings in Segura, who are there, who've created the modern day academy that's there at this moment in time. Highway had done a great job as the academy owner, or as the head of the academy director up until then. But they modernised the academy. The way things happen, it all happens under Benitez. As I say, the Houllier modernisation would have happened anyway, because football was fundamentally moving on from the way it had been to the late 90s to when it was. What Houllier is at the moment he's the opposite of Jurgen Klopp. He delivered shit football but was very lucky in finals. Jurgen Klopp has delivered incredible football and incredibly brilliant teams to watch, and has been horrifically unlucky in finals. I'll go, like, we're 1-0 up against Seville. We had the Champions League final, he loses Mo Salah. We've gone to a League Cup final and Mignolet turned into a hologram, the ball went through him. He was the complete opposite. We went to finals with Houllier and we were dog shit. Like how we won the Alaves one, we robbed Arsenal of the FA Cup final.
I think it was a young lad who you don't really rate, Michael Owen, that did that.
I don't. It was Paddy Berger's ball down the line. But anyway, right. Honestly, in those two, in fact, Henshaw was the best goalkeeper on the pitch that day.
Super.
Right. The amount of saves he made with his hand is unbelievable. But he's a man who was lucky in cup finals, unlike Jurgen Klopp, who so far has been unlucky in nearly all cup finals he's been in.
Is it lucky in a cup final, or is it a mentality he instills in his team before they go out onto that pitch?
If it was a mentality thing, they would have followed it up with a league win, and they didn't do it.
Whereas no, because we're talking about a cup final, which is a one-off thing, rather than. So I'm talking about, is it a mentality issue? Does he have an ability to instill a mentality in his players on a one-off game, be it an important league match, be it whatever it might? He mightn't have been able to continuously do that week on week, but he was able to drive it from the players.
I think his football methods can produce winning situations in one-off games, but isn't conducive to winning things over the long run. You mentioned the 90s, right? We should have won a league title under Roy Evans. There was one here that I actually forgot to put it. Actually, we haven't said it. Was the one non-LFC player you wish we'd signed. If we got to it, for me it was Schmeichel. If we had Schmeichel in the late 90s, we would have won a league title. That's the difference it would have made from David James. I think it was the 96-97 season. We go into the second last week of April to play United. We beat United. We go 4 points clear at the top of the league, right? United beat us in Anfield and they go on and win the league. We don't even finish second that year. We crumble and we end up finishing fourth and missing out on the Champions League. The team then had an issue with mentality, but it also stemmed from the fact that they didn't have the right players in the right places. So again, there's an element that is one-off, but it doesn't deliver the football that we're used to or the way we want to win.
I'd take the football that we're playing under Jurgen Klopp now over the trophies that either of those managers.
And the other thing, Benitez, I know what you said, I didn't know, some of us didn't like his methods at times, but when his teams were on fire and he let the lead off those teams, they shat on anything that Houllier did.
Agreed on that.
And the best football of Houlier's reign was when he was not there, he was in hospital. It was Phil Thompson was.
Why don't we do the question of the player that we'd never signed?
Because it was going to talk about the outpacked friendlies, but like nobody literally cares about international
football.
Couldn't
give a dick about international football.
Can I just
irritable
one thing on that one?
Of course you can, Shane.
I think if you mentioned about the final as a mentality thing, I think with Klopp and the way his enthusiasm comes across and everything, it's like for Liverpool and Dortmund, look, getting to a final is almost like winning the final. It kind of felt, well, look, getting there last season, getting to the final, the same way. Well, look, obviously I'm not a Dortmund fan, but getting through to Wembley to play in the final, I just think it might be an issue that he's using up so much enthusiasm, so much, and on the players it's coming through, draining the players. So that maybe if we can get the finals with a little more comfort, getting the finals, that maybe there will be more there in the tank to really put in the performances and get the results that we know we're able.
He always talks about going through experiences as a team, and I think this is important. I think this Liverpool team are now richer for the experiences that they've had. I think there is an element of bad luck, and that's not Crimea River, that is genuine bad luck. But I think this team now, and I think you can see it's evolved over the past couple of seasons. There's a real steely belief now in this Liverpool team that they know how to win, and for the first time probably this year, we know how to win when we're not playing particularly well. And I think that just comes with the natural evolution of a football team. So I don't think it's. I think the media make more of it than what Jurgen Klopp himself. I don't even think he gives it a second thought. He puts that Liverpool team out, and they believe. I mean, the Madrid game We were the better team for 20 minutes. There was no effect in how we were playing in that first 20 minutes that made you think, oh, we were nervous. We went at them.
No, we went at it, yeah.
Circumstances changed the direction of that game. I think now, richer from the experiences, I think any team that Liverpool put out in any cup competition go on that pitch believing that they're going to win, and I think we're in for a shout for
I'm not saying
all
that, look, it's easy to get to these finals, and when we get to a semi-final, we'll do it more comfort. It's obviously very, very hard to get there. It's just like you were saying. I like to think that as this team gets experience, that when they get there, they don't use it all up in the semi-final.
It's not new to them,
yeah,
and I think that's what it is. It's
what
not new anymore.
What I would say is they don't have the luxury, I don't believe, of coming second this season and building on that experience next year, because I think if we have another season where we come second, say this season, I think we will lose one of our top players. I think we will. The only benefit that we have now that we didn't have 3 years ago is the extortionate price of players. And the likes of Madrid, a prime example this year, Madrid lose Ronaldo and they don't replace him. That never ever would have happened. If they had lost Ronaldo for 60 million, 50 million, 60 million 2 seasons ago, and the price of replacing him was 80 million, they'd have done it. They'd have done it in a heartbeat. They had to go out and blow 200 million on Mbappe or Neymar or whoever, the Griezmann, close to that sort of money to replace him. Clubs don't have the ability to go out and buy 3 Galacticos, if you want to call them that, or 3 superstars anymore.
I think I'm less concerned about that side of it, and the reason why I'm less concerned about that side of it is that I think if this team continues to grow and continues to be up challenge, we didn't really challenge for the league last year, right? But if we have another good run in the Champions League, I'm not expecting to get to the final, I'm just saying if we have another good run in the Champions League and we look closer to City and we look like we're challenging for a title, I think the players will be fully bought into that this team is on the verge of winning the title. I don't think we lose. The only players that I think we could lose, even if that doesn't happen, is potentially Mane. The deal, he still hasn't signed a new deal, and he's the only one out of all the players that seems
I think that's delusional. I think players want to win trophies, and if we're not,
my point is that we look like we're challenging for trophies.
Yeah, we look like we were challenging for trophies in 13-14, and Suarez fucked off.
An FA Cup and a League Cup is not going to be seen by those same players as a trophy. It's going to be a league or a Champions League.
I agree, but we came second, missing out on the second last day of the season in 13-14. We lost Suarez. But the same thing happened.
Suarez was off anyway.
But the same thing happened with Alonso. This is the first time we've actually been at the cusp of a great win and not lost a key player. I don't think we managed it too.
I think we're always going to lose key players anyway. I think that's just football nowadays.
Can I just say on that point, probably going off on a bit of a tangent, but where did the domestic cups rank now? Because I personally think that they've lost
absolutely nowhere.
Lost their meaning. It's a competition for the squad to try and win. I don't think that has any impact. I mean, as fans, it's a great day out. But is coming second in the league and challenging for City, does that take priority over a League Cup run? Yeah. Where does that sit?
Okay, look, I want to, let's keep that and we can talk about that a different day.
Thanks, Phil.
I do, because
He's a helmet, isn't he?
He's an
absolute helmet.
Hilarious.
I'm going to unfollow him again on Twitter now. That's it.
It is a good question,
Jamie's actually just left the group underneath the desk. Jamie has left.
Which Phil are you going to unfollow?
Right, next one, lads. I want to move on because we'll close it off. It's the game at the weekend, Spurs. You weren't aware, Jamie, that the game was on Saturday morning.
Yeah, I've had a stinker. Absolutely.
You thought it was a late game?
Yeah, I thought it was a late game. So all my mates coming over, and I'm going to Skill Zone.
At what time?
11:30 it starts.
Yeah, but it's only an hour.
2 hours, they said.
But if you're good, you get out in an hour.
Surely
with a bit of luck.
Stuff there,
that's true.
In Skill Zone.
Yeah.
It's to watch your own performance. You're not up there watching the match. For fuck's sake.
Getting the practice in for the World Games.
Hanging tough.
Right, lads. Spurs.
Yes.
It's our first real test of the season. Spurs are coming off the back of a defeat against Watford. We go in, obviously, 100% record going into it. We're going to, they don't have a home. They can't finish their stadium.
Better for us if they did.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The Wembley hoodoo. Cursed.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm saying. We're going to have to change that around. This is a chance to build a winning cup.
When we win our 2 domestic cups this year.
Exactly, yeah. The Super League finals there. Yeah. But Spurs, lads, their threats are quite obvious in terms of what's there. It's Harry Kane, it's Christian Eriksen, it's Heung-min Son. I think he's back from the Asian Cup game, whatever it is playing. And then of course they've got a reasonably decent midfield, and they've got a fairly strong defence. Like they have if you look at them, they're probably in terms of stature we're equal in terms of what the teams look like and the way they want to play. Last year we got our arses handed to us on a plate, but it was probably
Lovren Gate.
Yeah, but it was probably also that seminal moment in a season that Jurgen Klopp says, I have to sort this defence out no matter what, because otherwise nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, we went on a silly run after that, didn't we?
Yeah, and then we went and we should have handed their arses on a plate to them when they came to Anfield in the second half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely.
So lads, there's been lots made of what it is, but we've had a lot of players on international duty. This early kick-off, what's the real impact?
It's the same impact for both teams. So, they have a huge amount of players off on international duty as well. Our Brazilian lads weren't involved, to the best of my knowledge. They might have come on and played 20 minutes, but they should be fresh enough. You'd have to think that the club have a private plane bringing them back. So that shouldn't be a major issue either. I think we beat them this weekend. I think, and that's not just like, stupid positivity. I actually think that we have the making of them. I think, if you look at where we're at now, we're very, very solid at the back. And I think it will depend on who we go with in the middle of the park. We did look lethargic and leggy against Leicester, especially in the second half. People spoke about Leicester stepping up a level. I believe we let them step up a level in that game. So I think we beat them.
Shane, I want to go to some with a bit of negativity on this game. So Jamie, you were saying before we started the pod that you thought we were going to get bashed.
You got it in for me today or something?
I've been waiting. I was waiting for I wanted that glass half empty, half full shout, and then I wanted to bring it back to when you said before, I feel we're going to get bashed.
There's something about Wembley at the minute in the back of me mind. Maybe it's the demons of last year. I just don't feel like I can remember a slick performance from Liverpool there. I don't know. We've just always seemed leggy and lethargic when we play there. I hope that this game bucks the trend. I've just got a funny feeling early kickoff after an international. It's a bit of a banana skin.
Dele Alli written all over it.
Yeah, just like a couple of scummy goals. But I think Steve-O said, I think the key is, I am very confident in the back. You nearly had it there.
I have it there. That's it.
Yeah.
Dele Alli.
I'm very confident in the back four and the goalkeeper now. So I don't think we're not going to be littered with individual errors. I think the game's going to be won or lost in the middle.
Sean is at home now.
Sean's like, what is this voodoo?
I've got it. I was getting pictures going, I've got it.
So you got across Jamie there. Apologies.
I can't even remember. What was I saying?
You were saying that you think Liverpool are going to win 3-0.
3-0, yeah, up the Reds. Midfield. I think the game will be decided in midfield, and I think it's important. The balance of who we pick in there could be key. I have a feeling that he will go Henderson, Milner and Naby as the three. It would give me more confidence having Naby in there. You'd nearly have Henderson and Milner sitting a little bit deeper and just let Naby go and work some magic. I just wasn't happy with the dynamic of the three in the last game. So if you give me is it prediction time?
No, Shane. I'm going
to lob this fucking microphone at him.
Anything different to what Jamie said? Would you throw Fabinho in for this for his
No, I wouldn't start him. No, I think.
I'll ask you that again. Would you start Fabinho in this game by any chance?
No.
Stephen, would you start for
definitely
that's what
he's looking for
right.
Queuing you up there. Go on, go on.
No, look, I think Jamie is right. I think will be kind of one in midfield, and I think Wanyama's missing for them, and Dembele has kind of been. I think he's been flagging a bit towards the end of the games.
Like Pochettino. Dembele is a myth. Pochettino is a myth.
Dembele is a myth.
He is.
Although, let's just go back for a minute to Wanyama. Smashing that ball is still travelling if it doesn't hit the
what a hit that is.
It would just circumnavigate the globe forever if it hadn't fucking gone in the net.
Would have hit Charlie Adams' penalty.
Yeah, Charlie Adams' pen.
Yep.
Just on Fabinho though, we were talking before the pod. I'm really excited to see him in a red shirt now after the international break. He's been given a little bit of time. I think we spoke about the games that he played for us, he looked leggy and he wasn't up to the speed of a Jurgen Klopp team.
Yeah.
But he does little touches, like his awareness in that position. You can see that he's a specialist in that position. He's very comfortable when pressed. It's little clips around the corner. It's using his body well when under pressure. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the team evolves with him in it at some stage.
The one thing that's guaranteed
for Southampton.
the one thing that's guaranteed, given the amount of games that we have over the next 6 weeks, we are going to see Shaqiri, we're going to see Fabinho,
he's another one.
we're going to see Sturridge, we're going to see Matip, we're going to see a lot of changes going through that time. Klein is going to get a run, Moreno's going to get a run.
Southampton and the Chelsea League Cup game, you'll see a lot of them players.
Prime example is that massacre in Wembley last year. We had nothing to bring off the bench, nothing to change the game. Okay, Lovren comes off early, but you were never looking at it going, there's anything in this. Now we actually look at our bench and you're going, just that you could bring in this person, it brings a different dynamic. You bring in this person, it brings there's definite elements to it.
I know I just said there, but it will be won and lost in midfield. But I also think that the Lloris, Alderweireld, and Vertonghen, and then obviously Alisson, Van Dijk, and Gomez. If we can come out on top against Kane, I think we've a great chance of winning the game.
They looked very vulnerable against Watford.
Yeah, and the same obviously if we can get on top of their back.
It's interesting that I think it was Joe Gomez was talking about the relationship that the two of them have, and because Virgil's so dominant, what's actually been happening is the centre forwards are like, right, I'm not going to get any change out of Van Dijk, I'm going to go and stand on Gomez. So he's actually had to face all of the different challenges. So it was the lad from Brighton, what's his name, the big lad,
Murray.
Murray. Yeah,
there's been so many different challenges for him to come up against. And it's going to be the same again. If Kane is in any way sensible, he's going to come away from Van Dijk and go, I'm not engaging in that. I'm going to pull on to Gomez. I fancy I'll get more change there. So it'll be interesting to see how he does.
On that, I know Reds bet, as I said, they sent us over a couple of bets. So the first one they had was that Liverpool to win, Man U and Everton both to lose. Was, I think, is it 46
United
to
and Everton got?
46 to 1. It's now
United are
51.
away to Watford. Halfway.
That's not easy.
It says 46.00 and 50.
Yeah, so it's 45 to 1.
45 to 1.
Yeah.
It's now 50 to 1.
It's now 50 to 1. Yeah.
So you get on there. If you get on to Reds bet, you get that. So that's
who've Everton got, Phil?
They're on earlier, aren't they? On Sunday.
On Sunday.
I'd love to know what the odds are on Everton to draw, because they can't win, they can't lose. They just draw.
It's just like a.
The main thing is that Jordan Dinosaur said he will never make the same mistake that Alisson did.
It's teed up in the next 3 weeks, isn't it?
It's a fucking mad.
He'll also never dive for a shot, so there is that. The little T-Rex arm fool.
They're home to West Ham on Sunday, are they? Really grand. Hopefully Juan Fangio runs in on top of him and he falls over the ball. It'll be great. And then the next one is, they've also got another special, which is Liverpool to win the next 3 Premier League matches. That's Spurs, Southampton and Chelsea at 13 to 2. So
I think that's decent. Well, it's a big ask to go 7 for 7, but I think they're all 3 winnable games, and I really would love to see us obviously go and win the 3, but it would be really nice to see us put a different team out against Southampton. A couple of little changes, freshen things up, and go and get a win there as well. It'd be a great boost to the squad.
If we got 7 from 7, we don't need 20 points to stay up. Anyway, that's the most important thing.
Always find your building blocks.
Yep.
Start with relegation safety.
Get them out of the way with. Get them before Christmas.
Exactly. Work towards the middle of the table. Then it's Europa League qualification.
Okay.
I'm nearly finished. Then you're heading for the top 4.
How'd you like that now, Phil? How'd you like that now?
Fantastic. Right, lads. Predictions, Jamie, go.
Score draw.
You said we were going to get bashed. Is that a fucking
bashed 2-all?
Bashed 2-all in the Jamie home head.
The positivity in the room has rubbed off on me. I'm going score draw.
Right, Steve.
That's as negative as he gets.
Score draw.
4-all draw. I'm feeling real negative tonight. That tells you a lot. I'm going 2-1 win. I think we do concede because that Jamie Pox Harry Kane has a way of scoring goals.
Potentially, both goalkeepers could go walkabouts. If I was betting a man, I'd probably put 100 to 1 on both goalkeepers to score an overhead kick from outside the box.
And you'd do it via Reds bet.
We'll talk to Reds bet about that. I'm sure if you want both goalkeepers to score an overhead kick outside the box, I can get you better odds than 101. I'm confident of that. I'll get on to the lads tomorrow.
See if we can get me the bet, will you?
Let's not push it.
Score draw 1-1.
No, you've been positive or negative here.
No, I've been.
That's him being positive. That's him being negative.
Centre. I take a draw. I know everyone said 4-4-4, it's a great start, it's a statement, etc., etc. A win on Saturday is a statement.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with going to Spurs and taking a draw.
No, there's nothing at all, but if we get a win,
we're going to bash them.
Kane had a little semi-pop after they won.
Kane has a semi?
Kane had a semi.
Who'd know?
Jesus Christ.
What did you say, Harry?
We went an hour and a half without offending people, and then
fat tongued fuck,
seriously.
Honest
He was stung
God.
by 10 hornets on his tongue before he went on that interview.
No, well, he had a little pop after the game with
He
Old
said
Trafford,
something,
saying something along the
blah,
lines,
blah, blah,
other teams, that's a statement, and other teams haven't beaten any top, so blah, you said some shit anyway.
And then they went down and got beaten by Watford.
Then they got beaten by Watford.
yeah, famous last words.
I think we'll lose 3-0. Solid. And Harry Kane, just because I've taken the piss out of him there, he'll score a hat-trick. Oh, hey, Harry Kane. Somebody explain to me, Harry Kane. You're English.
Explain
Explain
to
me.
Kane to get 4.
Yeah. Explain to me, Harry Kane. Somebody explain to me why he scores goals, because he's no technique. He's just a big lumbering oaf that falls over the place, and all of a sudden there's nobody in his way.
It's funny you're bringing that up. I've got a mate who's a Spurs fan, has a half a season ticket, and he's telling me years he just
Which
goes
half of the
sees,
season does he go and see matches in? First half
they
or the
ripped the
second
ticket in half,
Right. And neither of them go in.
Can't go in, no
And
stadium.
he said he's been saying years that his build-up play, his general play is absolutely appalling, but he scores goals. Just scores goals.
No one gives a shit. He scored 30 Premiership goals a season.
If he gets half a chance, he scores.
It sounds shit. If you say something that sounds shit, what
you see it with England. You see it with England.
I'll relay the message to the lads.
He's a 6'3" goal poacher. That's what he is. That's all he is.
Like myself.
I don't understand Harry Kane.
All
And
I do is
this,
score goals.
I was hoping to go to Real Madrid, because when he turns up at Real Madrid,
Imagine him going to Real Madrid.
Imagine the start, the circle in the middle.
Yeah.
They're all
And they're all
taking
ping,
around
ping,
these
Harry
little-
just
what the fuck is going on here?
Harry just comes out with maybe. What we're missing is he drops the tongue
Yeah.
and knocks the ball away. That's how we're not seeing these little movements.
Maybe tongues the ball in the net.
No. He says something, the lads are just going, what's he trying to say to me?
Daw head, isn't he? He's a big daw head.
He's fucking getting a hat
Right,
trick
anyway.
fucking Saturday.
Oh, no, yeah. Anyway, right, that is that is the Tuesday Club. Of course, you've been joined by Stephen Daly, Jamie Home, and Shane Davern, or Clavo as he's known by Liverpool teammates. I have been your host, Phil Casey. This has been brought to you in association with Redsbet. Thanks for watching, thanks for joining in, and we'll see you all again next Tuesday. Coming up this weekend, the Cop Table will have their pod out on Friday, previewing the Spurs match, and then on Saturday there might be a final whistle if we can find someone who
get Jamie out of skill zone.
If we can get Jamie out of skill zone, yeah. If we can find someone who could do
I tell you what I think about the game.
if anyone could do final whistle, if you want to get in touch with me, we might be able to do something there. Steve Brown, you don't count.
great.
You can't do it off a phone. I'm going to tell you this over and over again. Right?
I'll do it, Phil.
Thanks, Steve. How do I do it over a phone? Doesn't work. And then on Sunday, the Fatback 4 will be back. And the Fatback 4 are coming from their new home, which is here. And Gavin's going to be here doing it as
Right
well.
there.
So literally right here. Actually, where Shane is sitting, it's going to be there, right there. So the lads will be on Sunday as well. And then we'll be back with you next Tuesday ahead of... Actually, what are they getting? Is the midweek match next week?
No, I think it's the week after.
Champions League starts next.
Is it
Yeah,
next week?
yeah,
Sorry, I'm a week away. So it's Spurs, PSG, Southampton.
So it's PSG Tuesday or Wednesday?
It is Wednesday, I believe.
Wednesday.
Shit, how do we not know this? We're so poorly
Okay, so
researched.
whatever day the PSG game is,
That's when the
we'll be
final
on
goes
after that
on.
match.
Yeah, we're going to go live straight after the game.
Thanks for watching. You've all been great. Loved your comments. We'll see you next week.